Welcome back to Life After Lights. I am your host, Tyler Greer, and today we have a very wonderful guest spending some time with us. He is Dennis Pelfrey, AA manager of the Richmond Flying Squirrels that is associated with the San Francisco Giants. Yes, the same Giants who won the World Series in 010, 012, and 014. Dennis, welcome to the show. How you doing tonight?
I appreciate you having me. Everything's going really well in Arizona right now, so enjoying the weather there. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, man, it's a pleasure having you on, man. I really appreciate you taking the time and talking about your career and everything else, man. We're very happy to have you here. So we're gonna get right into the questions. So question number one: how long did you play baseball for? High school, pro, college? Just tell us about your background and your story a little bit.
Yeah, I played high school baseball in Arlington, Texas at a school, Arlington Bowie. Most people probably have never heard of that place, but one guy that went through there when I was there, he was a sophomore when I was a senior, Vernon Wells, who had a nice major league career. So that's kind of my claim to fame. We got to play against guys like Kerry Wood and those guys. So in that Texas area, baseball was really good at that time, and I think it still is for the most part as far as high school goes. So it was a really nice experience playing there. Played for Coach Kurt Culbertson, and we weren't very good. We didn't have a very good winning record any of the 4 years I was there, but it was a special time for me as far as like just figuring it all out. And I had moved to Texas from a small school or a small city in Ohio, just outside of Dayton. So, going to Texas where everything's bigger and I call it the best country in the world now. I've been there so long, and I really like the place. But it was definitely a culture change and a shock to see all really good athletes and things like that when I moved down to Texas for high school baseball. And it was a blessing, and I got to then move on and get a scholarship to go play at Northwood University, which was an NAI school in Cedar Hill, Texas at the time. It's no longer there. There was 3 schools that Northwood had: one in Michigan, one in West Palm, Florida, and one in Cedar Hill, Texas. And the only one that's left now is in Michigan. But it was really a really good experience for me. I got to go in right away and be around some really good baseball players. It was we were an independent NAIA program at the time. So Dallas Baptist, who's now Division I, they were, in our region, Oklahoma City. They were in our region, Houston Baptist. We played schools like that. And, it was really, really good baseball. Got to learn a lot my first year, my freshman year. Played with some guys that got drafted and then played some professional baseball after school. So I got to learn a lot there. And then from there, went to a few tryouts as soon as my senior year was over, put up really good numbers, just never got the call, never got drafted or anything like that. And went to a couple of tryouts and, right out of school, drove down to Houston at the Houston Astrodome. It's no longer there, but we had a big tryout there. And, I ran a really fast 60 time and hit a home run in the game we played. And, some scouts talked to me a little bit, but a guy, asked me if I was interested in playing. I said yes. And, he introduced me to independent baseball, which, at the time was never even heard of it. But, he said, you're going to get paid to play. Got a guy that'll take you. Called him right there in front of me. Eddie Dennis was his name. Who I think now he's working for the Phillies. So he's still coaching baseball, but he said, yes, when can I be there? And I told him I can be there tomorrow. So it was a crazy story, but I, drove straight from Houston back to Dallas, which is about a 4-hour drive, packed up everything that I owned, moved out of the apartment that I was in, broke the lease, did all these things and drove 9 hours to Harlingen, Texas. I played for the Rio Grande Valley White Wings. I was going to try out. I didn't have a spot. I didn't have a contract. So I show up and, with everything that I own, no place to live or anything. And, I'm trying out with 2 other shortstops. And, I put on a pretty good show, I guess, and they signed me to play that night. And, the rest is history as far as like what my career was. I played 6 years of independent baseball, went to the Frontier League after that season, got around some really good baseball people, played on some really good teams and, had a pretty good career as far as that goes. Never was a superstar or anything like that, but was a part of a lot of really good teams. And, that was really special for me. And one coach in particular, Greg Taggart, took a chance on me, and he was a long time, independent legendary manager. And Brennan Segarra was the pitching coach at the time, who is now, a pitching coach for the Texas Rangers in the big leagues. Andy Haynes, who is now the hitting coach for the Pirates. I believe he was with the Brewers the past few years. And those were kind of their first gigs as professional coaches as well. Greg Taggart kind of assembled all that, and just created this culture of coaches and players, and just a fantastic experience for me. Along the way. So 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, and then 6 years of professional baseball, independent baseball. And for those people that don't know what that is, it's basically minor league baseball that's just not affiliated with a major league club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had for that too as well. Brian Tolberg, who I had on the second video, he did something very similar to that too as well. So yeah, he did independent baseball before he got signed with the other club. So yeah, so independent baseball does promote some players, and some good things do happen to players who do play some independent baseball. It's just not as well known just yet, but it'll get there. It's probably getting bigger and bigger every day, actually. So, but so yep. when you played independent baseball, college and high school, what are some of the highs and lows to your career?
I'll never forget. In high school, I was fortunate enough to be on varsity as a freshman playing shortstop. And, again, coming from a small town in Ohio to a really big school in Texas, a lot of people, I was afraid that the senior shortstop was going to just destroy me. And it's not my fault, but,
yeah.
Starting and playing against guys like Ben Greer and some guys at Martin High School in Arlington, just a fantastic program. I'll never forget playing one of my first varsity games in district. We called it district. And I struck out 4 times in a game against Martin and made like 2 errors in the game. And I was just on the verge of just wanting to quit baseball because, as a freshman in high school, big place, new kid, just trying to survive. Right. And I think a lot of people go through those things when you're young, especially when success isn't there and there's some failure, and it really, could destroy people mentally. And I think that it was really good for me, a learning experience, and a fortunately for me, I got through it, and I think it made me stronger. And I think that that's how a lot of people should look at things these days, is when things don't go the right way, always look at it as like a learning experience, right? And from that day forward, I just told myself that I was never going to let outcomes dictate what I did and what other people thought and things like that. I had an idea of what I wanted to be, and I wanted to be the best player that I could be. And I figured that out at a really young age, which I was fortunate. So I just kept pursuing it. Anytime we did any kind of running, I always wanted to be first, and all these things. So that was my way of making up for some of those mistakes I'd make on the field, and some of the, I call them, people call them failures in the performance, but really they are just learning moments. And, just not succeeding at the goal or the level that you wanted to at the time, but understanding the big picture that it'll get better. And then going into college, I think pretty much the lowest thing for me is I'd never been on the bench. And I think some people, when you get put on the bench, they look at it as a negative, and I probably did too at first, my freshman year. But again, I played behind a guy named Mike Boughton at shortstop, who ended up getting drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks that year. So after it was his junior year, but I got to learn so much. And I think that the experiences of watching the game and being on the field and practice every day with a guy that, obviously went on to play professional baseball and was a pretty good baseball player, invaluable experience. Sitting on the bench and seeing how the coaches, interact with players, how the coaches are thinking about and looking at the game differently than a player. I think that really helped me a lot as far as, getting to where I'm at now. And I think that for me, it could be looked at as a low, but I think it was maybe the highest point of my career, evolution or growth or whatever you want to call it. My freshman year of college, just all the things that I got to learn, being under a head coach, Pat Malcheski, who was like a father figure to me, letting me come in and play. and just be a part of something really special. So I think that all that my freshman year was probably the highest point of my baseball career. Getting to play professional baseball was really good, but I think that looking back on it now, that freshman year was the most invaluable.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's super cool. I know you do learn. It's so cool because you do learn so much as a player still playing that on the bench that you don't see as a player. There's so many different details that you can learn, you can absorb. And I feel like, a lot of people say that the catchers make the best coaches. Well, the reason is because they're constantly picking the coach's brain, picking their ear, trying to figure out not really picking their ear, but picking their brain, like trying to figure out, what they need to do to get to that next level, or what, kind of mental aspect they need to learn to get better too, as well. So yeah, and being on the bench too, like that, is also very valuable. You learn a lot of the mental side too, as well, like you were saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just see the game differently. And like going back to the catcher thing you talk about, you see the whole game from behind the plate, whereas playing shortstop, there's things that happen behind you. And, it's a lot different, the different point of view. And I think that, once people can start changing the way they think about things, if your kid is, a sophomore in high school and he's, playing once a week or, not playing much at all, not getting in bats. And it's very easy to get frustrated and upset that he's not getting an opportunity. But, at the end of the day, I think that most kids get those opportunities. They earn those opportunities in practice and how they're working. And, if they have a negative attitude about it, or if they're thinking about it in a way that is really just for them, then they're not going to see the big picture, understand, the complexity of everything that happens within a sports program, whether it be baseball or football or whatever. But I think that, at the end of the day, you hear a lot. You hear people say, "Oh, the coach didn't like me. That's why he didn't play me." And I have to disagree with a lot of those. I mean, there's probably some cases where that might be the case, but I would give the person the benefit of the doubt, because I think every coach that's doing it wants to win and wants to put the best guys out there to win. And so I think that if you can just think about things a little bit differently, so especially if you're not playing that day, hey, let's see how good I can get just watching over here and seeing if I can get better just by watching what the other guys making mistakes, the other team's making mistakes. So I think it's really beneficial.
Exactly. And I'm really glad you said that too, like about the coach not liking me, stuff like that. I think it's like one of the most pre-wired excuses that an athlete can come up with. It's kind of like a safe haven, like, oh, he didn't like me or she didn't like me, I didn't do this. Well, no, just do it. If you did it, then you would play. If you did it, then you would see a different level of your game. Like, that's the thing too. It's like, I feel like that's such a pre-wired excuse for athletes on all levels. And I wish people would stop saying that, because, man, the coach can't control you as a player. They can guide you, but they can't control you. So.
Exactly. And, the time, because I've been on both sides of it, and I coached in high school as well. I guess we'll get to that a little bit later, but, ran a high school program in Texas, and, I got to hear the other side of it too. And I do understand. I understand that, it's your kid and you want the best for your kid, but sometimes the best for your kid is in the back seat, right? So I think that's where we lose sight of it a lot of the time. And, you're exactly right. Pre-wired excuses. It's easy to say. It's easy to say things that nobody can really back. Nobody can really prove, right? So it's like, once we can get away from that as a society, I think, in everything that we're doing, I think that it'll make us much better off.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree, man. I couldn't say any better myself. So the next question we're going to go into here for you is, how did playing sports mold you into the person you are today? And what lessons have you learned along the way?
I mean, definitely molded me. I played football and baseball in high school. And like I said, I think that the lessons and how it molded me, were all really all in one. I think that being a part of something, being a part of a club, being a part of a team, in any aspect, whether it's the chess team or tennis team, cross country, even the golf team, even though it's an individual sport, being a part of a team is really something special, and really something that, every kid should be exposed to, because one, you're working together with people for one goal. And, and I know people say a lot in affiliated baseball, it's, especially in the minor leagues, everybody's, for themselves and just trying to make it to the big leagues. And there's some truth to that. But I think it's also like the here and the now, where your feet are at. And, we talked about it in Eugene last year in high A, and we ended up winning a championship. And, that's what we talked about. Yes, we want you to get better. We want to develop players, but we also want to develop winners and teach you how to win. And you learn how to win together, because it takes more than just one person to win a game. And especially in baseball, you can take Mike Trout and, basically neutralize him in a game by not giving him anything to hit. And the other guys around him can win the game still. So I think that's probably the biggest lesson anybody can learn, is being a part of a team and working towards a certain goal. But for me, like I said, when I had some failure early on in high school, it drove me to want to be the best at what I do now. And I knew that, I might not be the best shortstop ever to ever play the game, but I wanted to try to be the best, right? And at the end of the day, as I got older and started understanding, I just want to be the best player that I can be, because if I make it to the big leagues, I do, some of that has to do with luck and and all these things like come into play. But as long as I can look back and say, hey, I was the best player that I could possibly be, there's no regrets, and there's no, hey, the coach didn't like me, or the San Francisco Giants didn't like me, they didn't sign me, they should have signed me. I have no regrets. I'm not bitter at baseball because I didn't make it. But every time I go back and I can talk to anybody like yourself, I can say that, I became the best baseball player I could, and fully well-rounded, not just on the field, but off the field. Yep. Best teammate I could possibly be. And I think there's several people that I played with that would say that I was a really good teammate. And I think that's really what you should strive for, is for other people to say those type of things about you. I don't know for sure, but I would bet money that, there's several people that played with me that said that I was a really good teammate. So I think those are the things that you really want in your life, and the friendships that you create along the way just sets you up for anything you do in life, whether it's being a father, being a husband, in the business world, whatever it is. I think it sets you up to work really well with people.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's really cool. One thing that you don't realize playing the game and like being there with like all the kids, I say kids, college, high school, I mean, even pros, because like I'm a little older now, so I can call them kids now, some of those guys. But the friendships that you make are so easy because you have something in common. When you go out to the real world, when you're not playing the game, friendships are a lot harder to make. And it's a lot harder to guide yourself to like find the right people. Like when you're in a club, on a team, a sport, tennis, baseball, hockey, football, whatever. It's so much easier to find friends just with that common interest like that. And it's kind of cool, because then you have a friendship for 20, 30, 40, 50 years possibly, which is very unique. Not a lot of people have that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're exactly right. I think when you're a part of those things, and the longer you're a part of those things, you get exposed to a lot of different cultures, different races, different, a lot of diversity, and which is really cool. We had a diversity conversation today here in spring training with the Giants, which was really cool. But what makes it really special is the same goal, like you talked about, the same interest, same hobby, whatever it is, but you're more apt to open yourself up to people, and you can really be yourself. And I think that's where, in the business world, when you go get a job in an office, it's really hard to open up, because you don't quite know what this person's agenda is, or you think they have an agenda. They probably don't. And it takes a lot more time to really create those relationships, because you're a little bit guarded. And I think that's, how society is today, because, the personal interaction and communication skills are going away with all the social media. I mean, me and you are sitting here talking on a computer screen together.
Social media.
it's totally different than how it used to be, right? Where, you is what you're doing right now, you'd have to you have to come down here to Arizona to find me, and we'd have to have a face-to-face conversation at a restaurant or something like that. And, with a video camera, a VHS recorder, right? Like, so I think that's where one over here. I think that's where we lose a little bit as far as being, just open with each other, and we get so guarded. And I think if more people can be more open and honest with each other, and, it helps. But being a part of a team allows you to see how that can grow into something really nice. Like you said, those friendships you've had, for a long.
Absolutely. Yeah. The cool thing about it is you don't forget the teammates, you don't forget the bonds, you don't forget the good time. You just don't. You have so many lasting memories with everything that you do. So, but yeah, I just think the sports, playing team sports is so much more than just being on a team. there's a lot more aspects to it that are pretty cool that people, I think, forget sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but so my next question to you is, do you have a favorite teammate of all times, and do you have a good story to tell?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I can't say favorite because, I'm one of those guys that says, like, if somebody has a best friend, there's only one, and
Yep.
my son say this, hey, I've got like 3 best friends at school. No, you can only have one best friend, right? Like, and one favorite. Like, there's only one favorite because it is your favorite, right? So I can't say that I have a favorite. If I had to pick one, it would be Cody Fisher. But there's a couple other ones that are really, really close. Jamie Bennett and then Adam Olo. We played together each for about 3.5 years in independent ball, and those 3 guys were really close to me. And 2 of them, Cody Fisher and Jamie Bennett, are left-handed pitchers, which I was a position player, and which is really ironic for me because go all through my career, high school, college, and even my first couple years of pro baseball, I always just hated pitchers. I just hated them because, I just wanted to hit them. Like, I just
Yep.
wanted to, even the ones on my team, it's not that I hated them, but I didn't hang out with pitchers. And it's funny. It's so ironic for me that Cody Fisher and Jamie Bennett, Jamie Bennett manages in the Frontier League for the Schaumburg Boomers. And he actually beat me in 2017 for the championship, in the championship series. And, I'll never forget that. But, we always had some good battles. But I will say my last year in 2019, I was 9-0 against his club before I left for the Giants. But anyway, it would have to be Cody Fisher. And, stories, guy. There's so many of them. Probably, most of them can't talk about here. But,
No.
we used to do some things like with some of the new guys that would come in. I'll never forget Josh Trainham came into our clubhouse one time. And this was back, we talk about minor leagues having it rough. We had a clubhouse that didn't have carpet and no air conditioning in Huntingburg, Indiana. So it gets very, very humid there for those of you that don't know. And it was a tough, very small clubhouse too. No carpet, like I said, dirt, dusty. It was tough, but we never really complained about it. I don't remember us having issues or anything. Like, we just did what we did. We knew what we were there to do, and we weren't getting paid a whole lot of money, but we were getting paid to play baseball, and we wanted to enjoy it. And so we would do some pranks. I mean, we did a few times where we'd take guys' jerseys and we would freeze them, and they would be like rock solid. And we would set them out on the, like, we ran one up with a flagpole one time, and put shaving cream in some guys' spikes sometimes. And so some of those things were really, really fun things to do. Or, they'd be in the shower in the clubhouse and we'd turn off all the lights, and then you obviously can't see anything in there. Some of those things were just kind of fun things to do. But the best story I've got about a player, and I've seen it once, I think, in the big leagues, but I was actually a coach. Drew Martinez, who is now, he's going to be a manager in the Dominican Summer League for the Giants. But he was my hitting coach in Florence. He played for me a couple years in Gary, Indiana, when I was a hitting coach. Fantastic man. He's a great guy. While he was playing in Gary, I had a couple of the players grab. He had a white Chevy Tahoe or Suburban, one of the two, and he had some nice, like, 22-inch wheels on it. And they were doing this car auction in the right field berm one night, and people were bidding on cars. So we had the clubby get the keys to his car, and we had somebody pull it around and put it in that auction as a joke. And the auctioneer guy was, rattling off, this car is for sale, and he's playing right field, and it's right behind him. And he turns around and sees his car, and he's just, dumbfounded. And it was one of the funniest things that I've been a part of in baseball. And like I said, I can't remember who it happened to in the big leagues, but they had him actually drive it around the infield or whatever in the big leagues. Somebody that played for the Blue Jays, but it was a while back. But yeah, it was probably the funniest story.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, you sitting around, feel like, hey, that's my car. What are you guys doing over there? How am I supposed to get home tonight? Thanks, guys. Just give him some cab fare. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go in the second topic. We're going to talk about how you set yourself up for after your playing career. When you were playing, did you at all think about your sports career after? And then did you have a game plan for after you're playing? Why or why not?
No, in all honesty, I did not. I was never a person who had a plan B. And still to this day, I really don't. Like, I don't think about, what ifs. What if this doesn't work out? What if I always think it's going to work out? And a really good thing or I guess I'll go to that in a second. But as a player, when I was playing independent baseball, when I was playing college baseball, I thought I was going to go get drafted and play in the big leagues, and then that didn't happen. So then I went and played independent baseball, and the same thing. Like, while I'm playing independent baseball, it's not even like a goal. Like, I'm going to go play in the big leagues. Like, that's just going to happen. Somebody's going to see me, and it's going to happen. So I just played each day, and again, going back to trying to be the best player I could be, and then it didn't happen. And so basically I just went into construction right away, like as a project engineer. One of the kids, so while I was playing independent baseball, I was coaching at the college to make a little extra money, and also was an avenue for me to work. I could take BP and do all these things and get ready for my season. And one of the kids that I coached, his dad ran a big time construction company in Dallas. And, when I was done playing, I just called him and said, "Hey, I'd like to, start a career in this and see what I can do." And he made me a project engineer, which I had no idea what that was. And he said, "You don't worry about it. You'll figure out that because you play baseball and you coach, you can lead people, and you can, structure and organize things like you do a practice. It's really similar in what you do." So I went and did that, and did that for a couple of years. And I built, a nice high rise in Miami, one of my jobs, and the other job was a church in Denton, Texas, that I did. And it was an incredible experience. But again, I didn't go to school for that. I went to school, I think, as just a basic business degree. It wasn't anything in construction or anything like that. And then I went into teaching high school, because one of the kids that I coach, again, and it goes back to creating those relationships, right?
Yep.
One of the kids I coached, he was the JV coach at South Grand Prairie High School, and they had an opening for the varsity assistant. And he asked me if I'd be interested, and I was like, "Sure, I'll try it out."
Yeah, why not?
I wasn't really too excited about the teaching part of it, but I went in and interviewed and got the job, and I was going to teach a business computer class, and turned out to be one of the best things I ever did in my life. And teaching the class was almost better than coaching baseball. It was fun, like, because now I'm dealing with kids that aren't really interested in baseball. They're a whole different diversity group of kids, and what they're trying to do in their lives and things like that. So that was really cool. But again, the same thing, like, did that, and then I went on to manage in independent baseball, and I left that high school job, and I'm married, newly married to my wife Giovanni, and she had just gotten pregnant, and I took a job with independent baseball as a manager for $30,000, no benefits. And coming from, I was coaching in high school, making about $65,000 plus benefits. And people, thought I was crazy, or probably looked at me like I was crazy for doing it. And probably, my family and everything. But for me, it was not even a flinch. As long as my wife was on board, and which I couldn't be doing this if she wasn't. Mm-hmm. She was like, "Go do it. Go chase the dream. Go chase your thing, and go do your thing." And so, without hesitation, I walked away from the high school during the middle of that season in 2015 to go manage an independent baseball. And, the same thing here. I had a nice 2-year contract or whatever left on my deal in Florence, and probably was about to sign like a 5-year deal with the new ownership there. We were winning. We were doing a lot of great things there. The Giants called. I took the job with the San Francisco Giants on a 1-year contract because I want to see how good I am. And I think that's maybe not the mentality for a lot of people. And I don't know that I would condone it for a lot of people, but for me, that's what it is for me. It's I'm going to do this until I feel like I get stagnant, or I feel like I'm no longer contributing or making an impact. And then I'm going to go find something else. And like, as long as I feel like I am in a position to make it to the big leagues, I'm going to continue on with the San Francisco Giants. But if at any point I feel like I'm just here to be here, and the organization doesn't see me moving any further up the ladder, then I'll probably go find something else to try to be the best at, whether it's pottery, or owning a coffee shop, or whatever it is. Like, I don't know what that is, and like I said, I've never really had a plan B. Looking back on it now, and if there was something I do regret or do wish that I would have done, it's invest money in a little bit of, Bitcoin back then or whatever, or something, be a little bit smarter with money. I think that's been a big struggle for me. Finally to the point now to where, money is not a struggle. I'm living a little better than paycheck to paycheck now, which is really good. But for a long time, it was paycheck to paycheck, trying to figure out how to make things work. And I think a lot of people are in that same boat. And, but just trusting in yourself and believing in yourself, I think, is the most important thing. So if there is something that you choose to do, or you want to decide you're going to do, be all in. Because if you're not, one, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to love it. And that's going to be a problem. And then it's just going to feel like work. If you chase something that you really want and you just go all in, I think you're going to really enjoy yourself regardless of the money, and you're going to find ways to make things work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think what you just said, I feel like is just lacking in so much stuff that you see today. It's like, when you're going to do something, just go for it. Like, don't worry about tomorrow. Just worry about today. I feel like that's just something that is such a great message to say, and it relates on so many different levels. And just from listening to what you're saying, I don't know if you realize this, but you were like that when you were 16 or 15 or 14. Like, I don't know if you realize it, but you're like that. You had the same mentality then that you do now. So your mentality has not changed 1 second. You just want to be the best. When you were younger, is the best shortstop. Now it's the best coach. So you can just see, like, you're still the same guy you were 16, just your mentality is still the same, which is pretty nice, which is pretty cool. So
yeah,
but
stay consistent, right?
Obviously your job's changed though, but yeah, the mentality is the same. So, but yeah, no, you're very consistent. That's why you're at where you're at. That's why, the San Francisco Giants and independent balls and all that stuff, the independent coaches and all that stuff, that's what they see in you. And that's why they wanted to get you to where you're at. And they want to get you in the organization because of that mentality. It's a winning mentality, because now you get to reflect that mentality to your players every single day. So,
Absolutely.
and that's something that they will pick up on. If they know it or they don't know it, they're going to pick up on it though. But the next question I got for you is, knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently? Do you have any regrets from where you're at now to what you saw yourself as a youth or a youngster?
Yeah, zero regrets. I think that I do have an ex-wife, but again, definitely not a regret. It was one of those things, like, you look at failure type thing. It was something that I really learned from, and I think it's really made the relationship I have with my wife now so much better. And no regrets. And I think I kind of touched on, if I know what I know now, would I've done anything differently? I would not have done anything differently. Maybe I would have sent a few more letters in the mail. Back then, email wasn't a real big thing either. So maybe a few more letters to some major league coaches or major league scouts, or, anything like that. But I would have not chose a different college to go to. I know a lot of people would love to play Division I and those things, but I felt like our team in Northwood, with our two number 1 and number 2 starting pitchers on the mound, we can compete with anybody in the country. And with the experiences, family that I created there, from friendships as well, I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. And that definitely helped me continue to do what I'm doing and live the way that I live. But no, other than, and like I said, figuring out a way to invest some money, save some money here and there, because that's something that I never really did, was invest money in anything or even have a savings account. And again, it was, living paycheck to paycheck type thing. Playing baseball, you don't get paid a whole lot of money. So I think that that's something that, looking back on it now, if I could have just saved a dollar here, a dollar there, to put myself in a little better position a little bit sooner in my life, it would have been a lot easier to get some things done. But again, I think that going through a lot of those things really helps somebody figure out who they are, one, and figure out how to survive in this crazy world we live in.
Yeah, absolutely. So now the next question we got here, did you know when it was going to be your last game, and did you know when you were done?
Yeah, so I did. My second to last year plan, I actually started catching, never caught before in my life, which was a whole different story. That's a whole different podcast, I think. But basically, as I was coaching, at Northwood, as an assistant coach while I was playing, a couple of our catchers got hurt in the off season in the fall. So I started catching in some inter squad games, and I was like, man, I really like this. I really like the action and calling the game. And at that time you could run the catcher over, all those things. In NAIA baseball, we played basically professional baseball. Like they could run the catcher over, all those things. So I really liked that aspect of it. So I called Greg Taggart, and I'll never forget this conversation. I called him and said, hey, I'm coming in this year, as a catcher. And he kind of laughed. And I said, no, I'm serious. And he's like, no, you're going to play third base this year or whatever. I said, if you don't give me an opportunity to win that catching job, then I'm not coming. And so finally talked him into it. It took a little while, but finally talked him into it. I show up, and there's probably 6 catchers in our spring training, which independent baseball spring training is, I call it competition camp, because it's like, 12 days of winning a job. There's 40 guys there for 24 spots, and you've got to come in ready to go. So I think there was 6 or 7 catchers there because he didn't believe that I would be able to do it. And I ended up winning the starting job as a catcher and made the all-star team. And then 2 days before the all-star break, got into a collision at the plate and broke my collarbone. I was the catcher, and the opposing catcher actually is the one that ran me over, and he just got lower than me, broke my collarbone. So I came back 4 weeks later, tried to play outfield, just find a place, where I could get on the field. And I just wasn't the same. I wasn't the same. And then, so I played one more year after that, played some second base for the Fort Worth Cats. And just the throwing and the whole really mentality for me, it was kind of squished a little bit, because I felt like that year as a catcher, I was having such a good season that I might get a call, might get picked up by an affiliated club, and it didn't happen. Then I got hurt, and then it was just kind of like, again, going back to that thing where I felt like at that moment in my life that the big leagues was out of the question for me. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go do something else. So after that 6th season, I went right into the construction thing, and hey, I'm going to be the best at what I do here, and I'm going to dominate it and go see some places in the world, and go, build the coolest buildings and really just learn. And that was it. It was easy for me to, I wouldn't say easy for me to walk away, because I love the game, and I went right back to it a couple of years later and coached in high school. But it was, it was tough. It's never easy to walk away and stop. And I think to this day, I still wish I was playing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, that answers my next question. Do you miss playing the game? Yep.
Yeah. That's why I kind of stopped there, because I thought, I think that it was probably leading into something like that. So yes, there are times where, especially when I'm coaching and I watch, and I'm like, man, I could be out there. Even now, like when I'm, my first year with the Giants, I'm like, man, I think I was probably close to being with these guys. If somebody would have gave me an opportunity, I could be right here with these guys. But and then I kind of look myself in the mirror and like, nah, these guys are great. These players we have are fantastic, and I probably couldn't hold a candle next to them. But yes, I played some softball, slow pitch softball there for a while to kind of try to get that competitiveness, keep that competitive nature. But I think I was taking it way too seriously and rubbing some guys the wrong way. So I just kind of stopped that too. But yeah, I think that I'd like to grab a bat sometimes, jump up there and have an at bat to see if I could do it. But in no means do I want to put myself in a mental place to be able to compete at that high level again, because it is draining. It really is. Too physically, I just being 44 years old, I don't know that I can keep up with those young guys anymore.
Yeah, they got a little advantage on the older gentlemen now. So especially they're coming in at 16, 17, 18, depending on where they're coming from, or 22 or 23 or 24 from college. Yeah, it's a little bit different ball game. They can go, they can go mow down 3 Big Macs, 2 fries, and 2 Cokes and be ready to go in 20 minutes. So
it is great.
not us, but they can do that. So
yeah, exactly. I gotta pick and choose my moments.
What? Yeah, pick and choose your
moments with food and with some athletic stuff. So
yeah. Oh, absolutely. So now we kind of went over this a little bit, but you want to just tell everybody what you're doing now, what your official title is, what your association is with the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, so I'm the field manager which is, basically the head coach of the Richmond Flying Squirrels. We are a AA affiliate for the San Francisco Giants. So those of you that don't know how affiliated baseball works or how minor league baseball works, affiliates are not connected to the organization. So the Richmond Flying Squirrels are owned by somebody else. The Giants just, they're just affiliated with the Giants. So each major league team has a AAA ball club, a AA ball club, a high A or advanced A, which is where I was at last year in Eugene, Oregon, and then a low A team. And then we have 2 Arizona League or Arizona Complex League teams. And then we also have 2 Dominican Summer League teams in the Dominican. Some organizations only have 1 of each of those, but that's how it works. It's like a ladder system, and it's not a promotion or demotion thing like most people think. And even some of the players here with us, they think that if they're in AA and they do really well, they should go to AAA or vice versa. But sometimes it goes back to that thing, where I talked about, like being on the bench. You learn a lot of things, and also if you're in high school and you're not on the varsity, but you're playing every day on the JV, that's probably more valuable than you sitting the bench on varsity every single day, even though you're a junior or you feel like you're better. Like sometimes guys that, organizations too, feel like they're tearing up high A or advanced A and they feel like they should be promoted to AA. But the problem is if they get promoted to AA, they'll be behind a guy who, is a little bit older, played a little bit longer, had just as good numbers. So then you're going to be sitting the bench. So you have to really kind of be careful what you wish for, so to speak. And just understand that sometimes 2 guys will jump 2 levels. Some guys will be in low A and they'll jump right to AA, or in AA and jump right to the big leagues. You see it all the time. So It is a ladder system, but in the sense of being promoted or demoted, it's not as much as you would think. So that's kind of just a little synopsis of what minor league baseball is.
Yeah, it's a jungle out there, that is for sure.
Yes.
So it's a different jungle, but it's definitely a jungle. So you kind of went over this a little bit, but did you have any idea or expectations what your life would be like after your playing career?
No, because I never really thought about it, to be honest with you. I had the mentality of, this might not be the greatest mentality for some of the parents listening out there, if they are any, but I wanted to go to college and get a degree in college just to get the degree. And I had a thought, other than trying to be a doctor or something like that, but I felt like while I was in college and, going through it, I thought, as long as I can prove to people that I can commit to something and get this degree, I think that people would give me a chance in any job that I really kind of wanted to go after, unless it was something really specialized. But the same thing, like the construction thing, I didn't have a degree in it, but the guy knew my background and knew that I'd finished college. So I felt like that was a really cool thing for them to kind of look at, because that's how I looked at it. If I could commit to doing this and get it done, then any job that you get, for the most part, you could go in there. They'll teach you exactly what you need to get done to be successful at that job if they want their company to work, right? So I think that for the most part that works for a lot of people. But again, I think it was just really showing the commitment to do something and go all out and be all in, right?
Yep, exactly. All right, and the last question of the interview is, this is a pretty simple one. How does your body feel after all these years of playing sport? Really easy question after everything else.
Yeah, it is an easy question, but there's a lot of detail in there, I guess. But no, I think I feel pretty good. My arm feels great. I could throw BP for days. So I've never had any really arm issues. I am starting to have a little some hip issues, but some of that has to do with some hereditary stuff. But so I'm not moving around quite as good. Putting my left shoe and sock on are probably the hardest part of my day. So I'm sure a hip replacement is in the near future for me. But I feel really good, and I go run. I still run. I run 3 to 6 miles virtually every single day, especially during the season. I don't do it as much in the off season, but during the season, just to feel good about myself. I'll get up here in Arizona around 5:30 and go run, and it's kind of kickstarts my day. So the hips don't bother me for that, and my knees feel pretty good. I can't complain for where I'm at, because the way that I treated my body as a player, and the way I ate when I was younger, all those things,
Yep.
a lot of fast food and a lot of, this and that. I felt like, by the time I turned 50 years old, I probably wouldn't be able to walk. And, I'm 44 now and I still can run. So I think I'm going to shoot past that 50-year-old mark, I think.
That's right, man. That's what it's all about. Just keep that machine going, man, as best as you can. So
That's right.
But yeah, so that's it. So Dennis, man, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time, man. We really appreciate you being on the show, giving your experience, your wisdom. Obviously, there's going to be youth that's going to see this. I'm sure a lot of your peers are going to see this too as well. So, this is an awesome interview to have. And also too, this is a great thing to show your guys too in the minor leagues and everything else, to kind of to show them a little bit more of your mindset, to let them get to know their coach better too, without really having a conversation. I don't know if that's like the best way to put it, but it's kind of cool because they get to see another side of you, other than the coaching side. So they get to see a little bit of the player aspect too as well.
Yeah. I think that, I think you hit it on the head too, but seeing a different aspect for me where I'm a little bit more vulnerable than I might be having a conversation with the player. And, they get to kind of see it more and be in a personal atmosphere. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you, Tyler. And I think that what you're doing here is really special and really cool to kind of see the different avenues people take in their lives. And, especially coming from an athletic background for I think probably most of your shows are going to be about anyway,
Yep.
Which is really, because a lot of people, at least through high school, play sports and are a part of teams and clubs. And I think that just having places for them to go see, and hey, this is okay to be like this, and it is okay. And some of the things that I'm going through, not being successful, it is okay. And it's I'm going to learn from it. I think hearing it from somebody else other than their parents and their current coach, it's so hard. But if they hear it from somebody that they may not know, but they have a little bit of a background, I think it really emphasizes some of those things.
Absolutely. And that's why I appreciate you, because, you've come full circle, obviously being 44, you played baseball, now that you're a coach. So it's just really cool seeing what you've done with your life and how you treat life. Because the more interviews I do with everybody, the more I can see how everybody just is so different in a great way, where everybody's mentality is a little bit different, but in a good way, where it's like, oh, I have this option, I can do this. I have, oh, he went through this. Oh, he went through this. So it's really cool because you kind of get to see different people go through different ways. And like the whole point of this show for me personally is to help everybody, no matter when you quit, because eventually one day you are going to stop playing. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you said like Mike Trout, Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, or if you're Tyler Greer, Dennis Pelfrey. Your time is going to come to the end. It's just the way it is, But I just want to help people like see that there is other stuff outside of sports, that there is a life after that. Because I know when you're consumed as an athlete, sometimes it's to see the big picture like that is extremely hard.
You're exactly right.
Hard to do. So I'm just hoping this show helps those athletes in every single way. Just kind of show them that there is life after sports, and that once you're done, I know this is really hard to hear, but you really can do whatever you want. It just really depends what you want to put your heart and your mind to. So
couldn't have said it better myself. That was great.
Yeah. So anyways, did you want to say anything, any projects you're doing, anything else like that?
No, I mean, I think that, if you get around Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Cover All Bases is a facility that a good friend of mine owns and runs. And I do some things up there, but if you're ever in there, stop by and say hi. But no, I don't really have anything to promote or anything like that. And other than just, anytime you want to come back on to talk about anything else, I'm more than happy to do so. So I really do appreciate it, though.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for this awesome and open and candid conversation. We really appreciate it. And we'll definitely have you on mid-season or something like that, so you can kind of give an update on how your team's doing, how your coaching's going, and all that stuff. If that's something you want to do, and we can just give an update and add on to the story.
Sounds fantastic. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dennis, so much. Everybody, again, this is the episode number 3, the special guest, Dennis Pelfrey. I'm going to say your title wrong. I apologize about it. So managing coordinator, is that right?
No, field manager.
field manager of the Double-A associate San Francisco Giants, better known as the Richmond Flying Squirrels, folks. He's moving up from Eugene, Oregon to a flying squirrel, so watch out.
There it is.
So, all right. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Dennis. I am Tyler Greer, your host for Life After Lights. This is episode number 3, and we'll be back very soon with episode number 4. Thank you all very much. Take care. Good night.
Yeah.